Welcome to Monday, the 22nd of June, and to our daily Facebook Live update here at Pinnacle People Solutions. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Bronwyn Pearson and I'm from Pinnacle People Solutions. And our company provides human resource services, advice, solutions, support, strategies, the full range of things, that anything and everything that you might need to support you as an employer. And we specialise in providing that support to regionally based small to medium-sized businesses and not-for-profit organisations. And for the last, this will be our 17th week that we've been up here every day doing a Facebook live stream every morning to keep business owners and their staff up to date on any new information that's coming through that we think they need to be aware of during this COVID time, because we've had so many things that have shifted and changed and all the rest of it in that time. So we've been up here at 9:15 every weekday morning for the last 17 weeks, making sure that that you've got updates on anything that's happening and how it impacts you, as well as more detailed information about topics relating to staffing and to business management. And those topics have either been topics that we've slated because there's been particular changes come in and we need to do a bit of a deep dive for certain topics, but also topics that our clients and our Facebook Live audience have made requests for with us. So partly that's behind a very innovative week this week of live streams. So we will have, as we do on a Tuesday morning, excuse me while my chair wants to send me into the floor. We will have, as we do every Tuesday, our consultant psychologist Jessica tomorrow talking with us about the psychology of your workspace. And then on Wednesday, I'll be doing a live interview with Lawrence Nausbaumer from NTech, who's going to be talking about the kinds of demands and things you need to have in place as an employer from the IT perspective to cope with everything that has been shifting and changing in recent months. And on Thursday morning, we have another interview this week, which is with an internationally renowned interior architect, Kate Dodd. Really looking forward to that. And so we've got a great week coming up this week for you. And we're really looking forward to doing a deep dive into some special topics with special visitors this week, all motivated by the kinds of feedback and requests that we're getting from you as our audience. So don't ever be worried if you can't be up here at 9:15 on a weekday, because all of these live streams are recorded and are available afterwards, not only in Facebook but also on our website, on our YouTube channel, on our LinkedIn page, as well as with fact sheets as well, so that you can take practical information away with you from each of the live streams. So they are recorded and archived, and you can go back and watch them at your leisure if you can't make it to the live streams each morning. So please ask any questions that you might have as we go along, and I'll do my best as always to answer those. My lovely team are putting up the contact details in the chat screen as we speak. But outside of obviously the chat screen during the live stream, you can also contact me or my fantastic team anytime via email, phone or Facebook, website, LinkedIn, you name it, we're there. So just grab hold of those details and feel free to make contact with us if you have any queries or require assistance. So today's, we didn't have a specific focus topic for today, because we knew that there were quite a few things hitting the news waves between Friday and today. So today is more a sort of an open update, except for the fact that there's been quite a lot of focus in the last 48 hours on wages, the wage increase that was announced on Friday morning, that I foreshadowed in our last Friday's live stream, and which came through from the Fair Work Commission not long after the live stream, and we've sent a post around about that, and also made contact with people to let them know. So there's the minimum wage increase that that has come through, but there's also been quite a bit of discourse about states freezing public sector wages. Victoria has introduced the first laws in Australia to make the deliberate underpayment of wages a crime in Victoria, which is very interesting. And the general issue of the underpayment of workers has really come into the spotlight, somewhat not surprisingly, given the concern that that employers are doing the right thing and picking them up when they're not. So I have turned this morning into a bit more of an expose on that. Consequently, I've sort of decided that it would be appropriate to talk about wages and the question of whether you're paying your staff correctly or not. That may seem like a naff question, but it's not really, particularly if your staff are covered by, you've got a team that are covered by one or more modern awards. Those things are shifting and changing a lot, particularly since COVID, but also in general terms. And it can be quite onerous to be on top of all of the award requirements in terms of allowances, overtime, penalty rates, shift work eligibility and entitlements and so forth, a whole range of different things, so which affects people's pay. So we'll do a bit more of a deep dive into that today. So just in terms of big changes since I was last here on Friday. First of all, we had the minimum wage increase come through. So the Fair Work Commission on Friday morning last week after our live stream announced a 1.75% increase to the national minimum wage following its 2020 annual wage review, which was last Friday morning. The increase applies to awards, and bear this in mind if you're an employer with award covered staff, or if you're an employee and you're covered by an award, this affects you. The increase as it applies to awards will be done in 3 stages, which start with the first full pay period on or after the 1st of July, the 1st of November, and the 1st of February 2021. So we can provide you with further information about what awards are involved in each of those staggered impact dates. But if you're not covered by an award or an enterprise agreement, then the new national minimum wage will be $753.80 per week, or $19.84 per hour. And this applies from the first full pay period on or after the 1st of July 2020. So I know that the Fair Work Commission is now madly working to update their pay tools, information and resources, obviously with the new pay rates. So we will alert you with another post and direct email if you've subscribed to our newsletter when those updated pay rates are available for you. So just watch this space. We did talk a little bit on Friday, just to recap, that changes are certainly likely to happen to JobKeeper and JobSeeker. The government is due to release an economic statement on the 23rd of July, which will set out its plans for measures such as JobKeeper and JobSeeker, both of which are due to end in late September. And that statement will follow the June jobs report, which should give a bit of an indication of how the economy is responding to the reopening of key sectors. So what has also sort of come to light or been clear recently is in terms of Queensland, that the Queensland government has introduced proposed laws to freeze the wages of hundreds of thousands of public servants for a year in a bid to save $500 million. Legislation was rushed through Parliament to defer pay rises that the government had already promised workers. And it will affect approximately 250,000 public servants, including police, teachers, nurses and firefighters. For those of you in Victoria, the first laws in Australia to make the deliberate underpayment of wages a crime have passed in Victoria. The Andrews government's wage theft bill includes pretty hefty fines and up to 10 years jail for rogue employers, with a team of new inspectors empowered to police those laws. So very interesting first criminal bill to be passed in terms of wage theft, though very, very interesting development. In New South Wales, the Berejiklian government has given small businesses a one-off $3,000 grant to help with marketing and advertising costs, office fit-outs, training staff to adapt to the new 4 square metre economy. The grants, which will start from the 1st of July, have been announced as new data reveals that the number of workers on a payroll in Sydney CBD is still 11% lower than before the restrictions, despite signs of improvements in the city's pandemic hit jobs market. So this also has obviously a significant impact in rural and regional areas. So get up, we'll give you the details and you can get up and have a look at that $3,000 grant. Just a reminder that the one I've been banging on about it for weeks, which is the New South Wales Government $10,000 COVID affected business grant, is still available only until the 30th of June. So we're looking at only just over a week away. So you'd be surprised, get up there and check the criteria. You'd be surprised, you may find that you qualify. So better that to be in your pocket at this particular point in time as a business owner. So get up there and have a look at that. Over the weekend, we've had some news reporting that a growing number of backbench coalition MPs are urging the Morrison government to delay next year's scheduled increase to the superannuation guarantee. So you might or might not know that next year, I think it's 1 July next year, it is scheduled for the superannuation guarantee, which is currently 9.5%, to increase to 12%. And so there are a number of, or there's a growing sort of list of backbench MPs who are urging the federal government to delay that scheduled increase, given the current economic climate, and believing that it would hinder job creation and wage rises. So the government undertook a fairly wide-ranging retirement income review led by former Treasury official Mike Callaghan, and it's poised to hand down its findings on the merits of higher compulsory super, amongst other policy settings it's been asked to have a look at, on the 24th of July before the October budget. So watch this space, we'll give you more information as that develops. Now, as we get on to the issue of underpayment of workers, the most recent organisation in the headlights for this, in fact, is the ABC. And it has just made the largest apology payment of any business to date after underpaying 1,900 of its workers a total of $12 million. So in an agreement with the Fair Work Commission, the public broadcaster agreed to a contrition payment of $600,000 for the underpayments, which range from between $7 and $180,000 for individual workers of the ABC. The wage problems, which occurred between 2012 and February 2019, came to light when the ABC realised it had not paid some casual workers their correct entitlements, triggering an investigation by the Fair Work Ombudsman. And the Fair Work Ombudsman has since confirmed that the ABC was improving its wage practices, which included committing to audits from a third party, which is really interesting. So, of course, on the, not that these two are specifically connected, but of course, more recently, the ABC has also talked about being prepared to axe or preparing to axe more than 200 jobs as part of an overhaul of its business structure that is occurring because of a funding freeze to the ABC. That freeze is expected to cost the ABC $84 million over 3 years. While we're on the subject of underpayments and wages not being paid and entitlements not being paid correctly, it has been revealed on Saturday that around 80% of labour hire firms are not paying workers correctly in the construction industry, according to a new audit that's been conducted by the Building Watchdog. Now, that is the Australian Building and Construction Commission, the ABCC, and it has consequently recovered $563,680, so over $500,000 for 1,337 workers following that major audit. So the audit was undertaken of 63 labour hire employers in the building sector, and it found that only 21% were upholding all of their workplace payment regulations. That is appalling. Most employers fell short when it came to keeping proper records. Sorry, I know I go on about that regularly, but there's a really good reason. Providing pay slips and paying workers correctly. The basics. Wage underpayment, though, was the largest problem, with 64% shortchanging workers. And look, the reality is that the precarious nature of labour hire employment means that those staff are less likely to speak up about their working conditions. Now, the Commission, the ABCC, has said that the employers that they audited participated willingly and agreed to rectify any anomalies that were discovered and to change their systems to ensure they're complying with Australia's workplace laws. Let's hope that happens. So labour hire generally in the construction industry works in a triangular kind of arrangement, with labour hire firms supplying workers to employers for agreed fees. And while this obviously provides a flexible approach to the engagement of labour, the high level of non-compliance in the building sector is obviously a bit alarming and, not to say either, disappointing. Employers that profit from a business model designed to relieve others of their lawful obligations should be beyond reproach, you would think. So most of the underpayments were triggered by employers not paying minimum shift lengths, commuting or meal allowances, or updating wages to meet the award rate. One underpayment was a total of $19,000 for one particular employee. What we have been assured by the ABCC is that all forms caught doing the wrong thing had made the required back payments. Okay, so that's in the construction industry for labour hire. What we've also heard is that Australia's third largest bank, NAB, has become the latest big company to launch an investigation into staff underpayments. So the NAB Group's executive for People and Culture has a couple of weeks ago emailed staff to say the bank had hired law firm King & Wood Mallisons and audit firm PwC to undertake a review of problems with its payroll system after discovering underpayments totaling $1.3 million to 1,500 employees. They have expressed their regret and apology for the errors, as I said, the bank has identified payment problems for about 1,500 staff and is finalising a payout of around $1.5 million, including superannuation and interest as compensation. And the issue mainly relates to Group 3 and 4 staff being rostered for a weekly 40-hour week instead of the contracted 38 hours. And look, there's an estimate that the number of unpaid people could actually far exceed 1,500. So watch this space. Others that have had to back pay millions of dollars to staff in recent months include Qantas, Woolworths, Wesfarmers, and Super Retail. Wage scandals have particularly engulfed the hospitality and retail sectors in recent years. Back in February this year, Woolworths admitted it had missed the mark with an estimated $315 million owed to employees after miscalculations on a 9-year-old enterprise bargaining agreement. Back in February this year, the Super Retail Group, which covers Rebel Sports, Supercheap Auto, BCF and Macpac, admitted it owed staff millions in unpaid wages on top of 53.2 million it has already declared before February this year. In the same month, so February this year, Wesfarmers admitted it discovered 24 million in so-called payroll errors, and supermarket giant Coles announced it owed $20 million to managers of its supermarkets and liquor division over the past 6 years. So that caused me to go back and have a look at the last 12 to 18 months in terms of issues around wage theft, or indeed in unintentional not paying staff wages and entitlements correctly. So in that time, in addition to the ones I've already mentioned, fast food chain Grilled has been accused and was found to have underpaid its staff by as much as $4.23 an hour under the guise of a so-called traineeship. And while the traineeships were not compulsory, many workers reported feeling pressured into taking one. So that, and you can read more on that case. We'll provide you with some information about that. So some of the heavy hitters in the last 12 months is the ABC, which I mentioned. And essentially a lot of that comes down to penalties, allowances and loadings that should have been awarded to casual staff that were overlooked. I've got to tell you, I know I say this frequently, but the award system and the system of wages and entitlements and so forth is complex. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's easy to interpret or it's straightforward, because it's not. And if you have any doubts whatsoever, or you don't know what you don't know in terms of how you're doing in terms of paying your staff their wages and entitlements, get in touch with us and let us help you do a review and make sure that things are up to date. We can easily correct them if they're not, but you want to find out for yourself before somebody else taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, there's a problem. Qantas, I already mentioned, said that they'd made an error that caused 55 workers of theirs to be underpaid by an average of $8,000 over a period of several years. The workers were reimbursed with interest as well as given a $1,000 ex gratia payment. The Super Retail Group, which I mentioned, that owns Rebel, Supercheap, BCF and more, admitted to not paying managers overtime to the tune of $32 million. Those underpayments took place over 6 years. And the former CEO brought his departure date from the company forward to February this year in recognition of the significance of that underpayment. Commonwealth Bank underpaid 8,000 staff back to April 2019, and the missed payments date back up to 10 years, including wages and super totaling about 15 million. And in one case, the entire staff of Bank West, which is a subsidiary of the Commonwealth Bank, just flat out missed a whole day of payment. So if it can happen to big organisations that they're not keeping pace, then woe betide small to medium-sized businesses and not-for-profit organisations. A year ago, Michael Hill Jewellers announced they needed to pay $25 million worth of repayments to current and former employees. There were errors in the application of the retail award wage over the previous 6 years. Maid Establishment, which was owned by former MasterChef judge George Columbaris, he became a bit of a poster boy for the wages scandal back in July 2019, when his hospitality empire had to back pay $7.8 million in wages and super, which affected 524 staff between 2011 and 2017. And the company was also ordered to make a $200,000 contrition payment made with the Fair Work Ombudsman. Sunglass Hut had to pay back $2.3 million to current and former staff. Over 620 of their staff were affected. And the reimbursements were for failing to pay overtime rates, ranging from $4 to nearly $43,000. As of September last year, Sunglass Hut had repaid 1.5 million, and they have also committed to donating a $50,000 contrition payment. Bunnings late last year explained that they had found they had underpaid part-time staff in terms of superannuation, and they refused, however, to reveal how much those payments amounted to. Rockpool Dining Group, October last year, which is Neil Perry. He came hot on the heels of George Columbaris, owing staff over 1.6 million in back pay. The group initially actually denied employee claims of underpayment, but confirmed the error while being investigated by the Fair Work Ombudsman. And Woolworths, of course, owes staff up to 300 million. You, of course, have no doubt heard of the 7-Eleven issues around payment of visa staff. Subway, Endota Spa, Coffee Club, Food Co, Crust Pizza. I could go on. I won't. You'll be pleased to know. But in reviewing the weekend's sort of announcements and this focus on legislation around wage theft, on prosecutions, on fines and penalties, and all of the things that have been coming to light now routinely for the last 12 to 18 months, are really putting a huge spotlight on whether or not staff are being paid correctly. And my advice to you would be to check well, particularly if your staff are award covered. You might think you've got it covered, or you might be blindly trusting that your payroll system is doing what it needs to, but it's only as good as how it's been set up and maintained. So we can certainly help you with a payroll audit and make sure that things are correct. And if they're not, work out what's not and what the consequences are before somebody taps you on the shoulder or a staff member says, hang on a minute, I don't think this is right. Practical realities for you: make sure you understand your obligations to staff, including in terms of paying wages and entitlements. There is a particular focus on this given the last 12 to 18 months and the big hitters that have been in the media around this, to the extent that Victoria has actually put in place criminal legislation now around wage theft. But believe you me, there is a lot of the Fair Work Ombudsman has ramped up resourcing considerably to cope with the number of COVID-related inquiries it's getting. And a lot of those are that they're not being paid correctly, whether it's relating to JobKeeper or just in relationship to normal wages and entitlements. You don't want to be tapped on the shoulder. So please get in touch with us or speak to some expertise to make sure that you're paying your people correctly. You want to be consulting with your staff regularly, keeping records, putting everything in writing. You want to check, make sure you've got appropriately written comprehensive employment contracts and position descriptions in place to establish expectations and understandings. You want to make sure you've got really good policies and procedures in place. Deal with those performance and conduct issues right now to minimise your risk. And finally, and a reminder, make sure that you're paying your staff correctly and entering into lawful agreements with them. If you're unsure about any or all of those things, please get in touch with us. We can absolutely help you. We've got fantastic audit tools for payroll, for HR, and for work health and safety that can very quickly identify if there are gaps for your organisation in terms of your compliance. And we can certainly help you get all of that stuff sorted. So thank you so much again for joining us today. If you've got specific questions about your business, you'd like to sit down and have a no obligation free one-to-one with us to talk through your business and how your business might be impacted, or you need us to help you in any way, contact us anytime via Facebook. We've got all of the details up there in the chat screen. Thank you so much to my marvellous team who are so on the ball with all of this. It's wonderful. And you can also reach out to us, obviously, on phone, email, our Facebook page, obviously, our website, our LinkedIn page, YouTube, you name it. Lots of different options to reach out, so don't hesitate. So that's it for me today, but do yourself a favor and join our consultant psychologist Jessica tomorrow. Tuesdays are her slot. And tomorrow she'll be talking about setting yourself up for productivity and well-being, the psychology of a good workspace. Really valuable information and tips and tricks in there from Jessica. So please invite your friends and your colleagues and your family, anybody you think has a workstation who would like to know more about setting themselves up for productivity and work and well-being, the psychology of a good workspace. We'd love to see you tomorrow. And don't forget, we've got special interviews happening on Wednesday with Lawrence Nausbaumer from NTech on IT. And then on Thursday with the wonderful Kate Dodd on interior architecture and modern day workplaces, what they could, should, and might look like, and some really good insights into that fascinating area. So please join us. We've got a great lineup this week. In the meantime, please hug the people that you can and wave cheerily at those that you yet can't. Stay safe, keep socially distant, wash your hands like crazy as you have been, and we'll really look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you so much.